Jesse, are you ready for rapid fire?
Let's continue this monumentous rapid fire.
Let's do it. Marcus Freeman said earlier this week that nose guard Howard Cross will be back for Notre Dame's college football playoff matchup against Indiana. Scale of 1 to 10. How important is getting Howard Cross back for this game?
Yeah, it's got to be 10 out of 10. He's, a guy who preseason had aspirations and is on, he is probably going to be drafted and end up on an NFL roster. In my opinion, he is the anchor of that defensive line with Riley Mills. He has the seniority, he has the leadership. And, I think that especially against USC and, some of the things you need to do to shut down that they lacked pressure against USC, and I think he would have helped contribute to that. So I think he provides, providing pressure. And then against an offense like this that we just kind of got into with IU, you have to be able to shut down that run option first. You have to be able to take away, the essentially the ability to run, because I think that's where Notre Dame is going to really start to press IU. So having him back is really essential for both of those things, creating pressure and also eating up double teams and getting into some of those run lanes.
Before I answer my question, and you had some great, points that you made right there. Someone just pointed out, and I didn't even think about this before. We've had this LSU troll in the show, in the chat here tonight, because Salty asked during the mailbag if the guy from Tiger Bait owed Brian an apology for the whole dumpster fire comment. So that guy shows up. Someone must have told him we were talking about him, and he shows up and says that Notre Dame is a dumpster fire. But somebody just pointed out that Notre Dame, because he's like talking about, we play in the SEC and all this stuff. Notre Dame and LSU both played USC and Texas A&M this year. Guess who beat both of those two teams, and guess who lost to both of those teams this year? Can you take a guess?
Oh, I can. It is a great cross-examination.
Great point. I didn't even see. I got to see who made that put. D Troll Hunter. Boom.
You get extra credit today, my good sir.
Yes. There is no comeback from that, in my opinion. So as to the Howard Cross, this is a 10 out of 10 for me because Pro Football Focus pointed out, I saw this week, Notre Dame's 19 sacks from interior defensive linemen they lead the nation. Notre Dame's interior defensive line have the most sacks of any interior defensive line, 19 this season. Riley Mills leads the way with 6.5. Donovan Heinisch has 3.5. Howard Cross has 4. Here's the interesting thing. While Mills has 6.5, Cross was injured in the Florida State game. Of course, the game that Riley Mills had 3 sacks, but Cross missed the last 3 games of the regular season. Riley Mills has only had a half a sack while Howard Cross has been out. Heinisch had 1 sack. Gabriel Rubio had 1 against USC. They need that presence from Howard Cross in there, not only for the disruptiveness and for some of the stuff that you're talking about, because it also lets these other guys eat while they're in there as well. And it allows a guy like Riley Mills to also be even more disruptive when you have to account for both of those guys at the same time. So it's a 10 out of 10 for me. I think that they have an opportunity to just blow up the line of scrimmage when both of those guys are in there together.
Agreed.
So flag planting has, of course, become a thing. It became a thing at the end of the regular season after a bunch of rivalry games. Marcus Freeman shared his thoughts on flag planting when he was on Robert Griffin III's Outta Pocket podcast this week. Here is what he had to say.
I wouldn't be too high on somebody else planting a flag in our home stadium. But for us, let's get our butts in the locker room and celebrate team glory together. Don't take a flag and plant on our feet. Let's go into the locker room and spend that time together, celebrating the way we need to. You put so much work into this thing.
That's why I love talking to you, because if you get beat, you earn it on the field.
Right.
Beat them on the field.
That's right.
Don't wind up at the middle of the field after the game, ready to throw fisticuffs because they're trying to plant the flag. But what you just said sparked something to me, because when you plant the flag, you're making it about them. Mm-hmm.
That's it.
Whereas if you go to the locker room and you celebrate and you go to the fans and you do the fight song, you're making it about us.
That's right. It's a bad look for college football. You don't want people looking at highlights saying, well, that's how college football players act. They're fighting each other after the game. That's not what this is about. It's a physical, violent game, but I like to say it's a beautiful game. It's true.
All right, Jess. So what do you think about that take from Marcus Freeman on the flag planting?
Yeah, I think I am 100% on board with what Marcus Freeman was saying. It's not about, when you plant the flag, you make it about them and not about us at the end of the day. You are bringing attention to them and not about us, because like he said, why do you want to do that in someone else's basically confines, right? Like, go back into the locker room with everyone who, put in the hard work, the coaching staff, training staff, players, whoever, and celebrate with them, because it is what you guys did as a group, right? Like, you don't need to do that or show that public display in front of everyone at an opposing stadium. Just like, I've been in locker rooms after wins. You start blaring music, dancing around, just doing stupid stuff. Like, that's what you do after a big win, right? Like,
Right.
whatever you want to do. And I think that moment is only, most intimate when you can do that in your own locker room, again, with everyone who put in the work. So I loved what Marcus Freeman said. And I'm like RG3, I kind of went both ways, but he really kind of swung me in that ultimate direction. And I'll have a caveat, and I know you're with it goes off of kind of what you are getting ready to follow up this with. So I'll kind of save my next thought until we play the next clip.
So we play the next one. Okay. I did think it, I did like that spin, because I hadn't thought about it that way.
Right.
That planting the flag, you're making it about the other team rather than making it about yourself. And I love that. And that's obviously, some of the things that Marcus Freeman sort of preaches all the time. It's about
Team glory.
us. Yeah. Team glory. And, with team glory, team success come a lot of other things. And I'll save the rest for after this next one as well, because Riley Leonard and Jeremiyah Love were also on RG3's pod, and he asked them their thoughts also about flag planting. And I thought that, there was some more interesting stuff here.
How would you guys react as players if USC had won that game or any game on your field and wanted to go to the middle of the field and plant their flag in the middle? How are you reacting?
I was like, me personally, I'm not going for that. Like, he's not. I had the same reaction as the other teams. We gotta fight. I ain't gonna lie.
But that's college football. Like, that's the best part about college football, though. It's like the rivalries.
Yes.
Like,
Gotcha.
Expand on it, Riley. Talk to him.
I mean, shoot. Like, when you see, like, the worst thing could be if a team plants their flag at your stadium,
Right.
and y'all are just good with it.
Right.
Like, everybody wants to talk about school spirit now with the college football players and them not being a part of the team or not being a part of, like, the college culture that they had there at the school.
Right.
When you see guys defending their school the way they do and putting their, careers kind of at stake, right? I think that's a good thing. I think it's a great thing for college football for two rivals to really, kind of hate each other.
I don't disagree. I think that the pageantry of college football is something that makes it so special, right? Is it a bad look for teams to be fighting after the game? Yeah, 100%. It's a bad look.
Yeah.
But if you don't want them to plant the flag, win the game.
Win the game.
Right? It's true. Fight during the game.
Yeah.
Right? Fight your tail off to win each rep so that you don't have to worry about that in the end.
I thought it was really interesting hearing Riley Leonard kind of, like saying what he said there with, like the rivalry stuff. He's absolutely right. I mean, that is one of the greatest parts about college sports is people do get so intense, with their emotions and their feelings about these games, especially when it is a rivalry. But like hearing, Riley Leonard without coming out and say it, like Jay Love was talking about it. And I completely agree with what he's saying, like, while I, disagree, with the concept of going onto someone else's field and, trying to plant your flag and all that stuff. And Michael brought up the Michigan State game in 2005. I was there for that. And I thought it was really, childish of Michigan State when they did it. But at the same time, it's like, okay, well, I'm sitting on the Notre Dame side of things. But I completely agree. Like I said it after it happened, like, if I'm an Ohio State player, that's exactly how I would have reacted if I see these Michigan guys bringing this big flag and this big pole out on the field. Like, you think you're going to plant that thing on my field, on our field? That's not happening here.
Yeah, I think if I were, a head coach, I would, first and foremost, we're not planting flags. Like, I completely agree with that. There's no need to plant flags.
We're not taking a flag. We're not planting a flag in anybody's field. Yeah, exactly.
Right. But if a flag is trying to be planted on my field, we're not going for that.
We're gonna have some problems.
Leonard and Jeremiyah Love said, we are not, and that's the mentality I would want my players to have, because there is that is the right mentality of, this is our house, this is our home, we are going to protect it. We are, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
I get it. I don't know if I would be out there fist fighting people, but I'm not letting them plant the flag, essentially.
No, the flag is not happening. Like you said, like at the very least, it's like, we can, you can go tackle him, I guess, right? You can tackle the flag or tackle the guy or whatever it happens to be. The other side of this thing is this Ohio lawmaker, Josh Williams.
Oh, my gosh.
Wants this, he's trying to have this law passed. It says, no person shall plant a flagpole with the flag attached to it in the center of the football field at Ohio Stadium of the Ohio State University on the day of a college football competition, whether before, during, or after the competition. Whoever violates this section is guilty of a felony of the 5th degree. I mean,
so I don't want to
talk about getting in your feelings over losing. Come on, man.
I don't want to give this a ton of attention and thought, so I'll be short and sweet with this one. It is soft, and that is a lot of what Ohio State does after things like this. They're soft and cry about, oh, woe me. And two, I mean this in the most sincere way, it is offensive to people who actually commit felonies.
Yes, that's actually a great way to put it. Like things that actually deserve to be considered a felony. I mean, come on.
So that's all I'm going to say about that.
Yeah. I can't disagree. So Leonard also talked about on the Outta Pocket podcast some of the trash talk that Jeremiyah Love does during games.
Earlier about him talking trash. Like, this dude doesn't say much, like, throughout the week. On game day, I'm telling you, it's different. And, like, it's not necessarily talking trash whenever he's about to get the ball. It's talking trash when it's a QB run. So if it's a QB run, he'll point at the D lineman that he's pulling for, which we run a lot of QB runs.
Yes.
He'll point at the D lineman he's going for and just tell him he's finna knock his head off. Like, it ain't even like talking trash when he's finna get the ball. Like, he's trying to lay somebody out for me. He'll tell me that all the time.
Last game, USC.
He said, follow me.
Follow me, bro. I'm finna knock somebody out. I really be trying to, do my thing and, do what's best for the team, and especially for Riley. He be doing all this hurling stuff, trying to get himself hurt. I'm like, bro, stay on the ground.
Yeah.
Last game, he got completely flipped.
Yeah, I did.
Dang, they're on the goal line. I'm like, bro, stay on your feet. So when they call QB run, man, I'm just, Riley, got you, boy. Just follow me.
How about Jeremiyah Love calling out his shots at defenders?
I loved this interview, and I love that bit because you finally got to see some of the personality of Jeremiyah.
This was a great interview. Like, you told me, I wasn't going to listen to it. I saw the thing, that I played, for Marcus Freeman about the flag planting. And it's like, I usually don't listen to these interviews. And you were telling me last night that you listened to it. It was a really good interview. Like, Marcus Freeman started off, a little bit with some of the canned, coach speak type responses. But I definitely felt like, and it's Robert Griffin III and his wife, Greta, who is a track athlete. I think she went to Florida State. She said she used to compete against Notre Dame, but she's part of the podcast as well. Yeah. Heptathlete. Yeah. And, I definitely think that, one, RG3's personality, two, the fact that he is a former player, so there's some great relatability and everything. I just thought it was a really good, really entertaining. Like you said, he asked some good questions and got some good responses out of it. I thought it was really good.
They had the typical, like canned questions, and he literally said, all right, time to get into the hard stuff now. And they asked, honest questions, I thought. And so, to get into this one about, Jeremiyah Love calling his shots against defenders, I think that's great. And I think what that shows, and I think why I'm so confident about this team in past years, everyone's playing for each other. It's not about personal stats or how
Yeah.
many yards I get or touchdowns. He knows that stuff's going to happen. But part of it, too, is executing to your best ability like you would on a touchdown and getting that block for Riley Leonard. It just goes back to the team glory, the team success. And I love it, though, because, again, it's like there's nothing better than pointing someone out and saying, we're going to run the ball right at you, and I'm going to knock your face off.
And then doing it. Did you ever have a guy line up and tell you that he was going to knock you on your butt when he was coming at you?
So there were
The
offensive
snap?
linemen. There were running backs who, that's definitely happened before. But I also kind of keyed in where eyes were going too. Like that was, and again, that wasn't verbal, but that was just kind of, seeing where a lot of
Right.
people just like to look where they're about to go.
Yeah.
But yeah, you've had some of that before, and it's gone vice versa. I know what play is coming, and I've been like, I'm gonna, you're not going anywhere. And the nice, I didn't say it like that, but that's the underlying concept.
Right. Yeah. And like Jeremiyah Love calling out his shots, and RG3 was talking about, well, you got to start running some counter off of that as well.
Yeah, tricking some
think
people.
they're coming at you. But I like the Riley Leonard staying on his feet. I mean, I think, haven't we all probably thought that more than once? Like seeing him flip all the way
Yeah,
over.
I hold my breath
USC.
every time.
I know. It's like, what were we worried about the most with Riley Leonard coming into this season? Is he going to get broken in half? Is he going to be durable enough to hold up? I completely agree with what Jeremiyah Love was saying in regards to hey, Riley.
So I
keep it on
think
your
that
feet.
also shows, Riley Leonard's impact on the team, right? Because
Mhm.
Jeremiyah Love is thinking, that's the last guy that can go down right now, right? And so I just think that shows the confidence that they have in Riley Leonard, the leadership that Riley Leonard presents as the quarterback of this team, and then also, how dynamic Riley Leonard is. They need him as he is what oils the machine, right? Like he's what opens up the Jeremiyah Love runs, the Jadarian Price runs, the ability to make the passes, his own big run plays, like they tick around Riley Leonard. And so again, I just think that shows the level of importance that he has on this offense.
No, absolutely. And I think that the buy-in that he's given to Notre Dame, and you heard Love talk about, like after NIU, he said, he was watching Leonard and, just watch the way, he went about his work and also interacting with, like people on the team and, all these different things. And I think that, like the fact that, I think that the fact that they all respond to each other, and I think Love also talked, at some point in there about just how close this group is, and I think a lot of that starts with the quarterback and like the fact that they do play for each other so much. So let me see. Go ahead and throw this. Antoine wants to know if you played with anyone in high school that played Division I football.
I mean, everyone will recognize the name Drew Tranquil. Played against him in a sectional championship. We were beating him so bad that he literally took the reins and became the Wildcat quarterback. And a combination of we couldn't stop him, and our coach also couldn't stop himself of making dumb decisions. And we ended up losing that game. And now Drew Tranquil plays for the Kansas City Chiefs. Garrick Dieter was a wide receiver for Washington High School. He went
Another
on and
Kansas City Chief, best friend
he
of
was
Patrick Mahomes.
yeah, he was, you probably saw him on his top 10 moment on Bowling Green. He had like 3 touchdowns that were all like one-handed in one game.
Played for Alabama for a year.
Yeah, goes to be a grad transfer at Alabama and then gets some time with the Chiefs for a little bit. There's trying to think if there's probably more if I
But
sat
you
down
had
and
2
thought about it.
teammates. Shaq Van played for Eastern Michigan as a running back.
And Danny Penner actually was a tight end / became offensive lineman for Ball State. And he actually started against the Patriots a couple weeks ago at center, and they picked up a big win. Or guard, might have been center guard. I can't remember.
Offensive lineman for the Colts now, Danny Pinter. Another, couple South Bend Adams guys. And I'm trying to remember like the rest of the conference. I'm sure that there were a few, like here and there who probably,
Played
like
against
from
some
Penn.
baseball guys. Tanner
Yeah,
Tully
there were a
pitcher
couple
for
other
Ohio
guys on that
State.
Washington team that Dieter played for. I think one of them started off at Ohio State and he ended up transferring. Perkins, yeah. And then there was another, the quarterback as well was a really good.
He ended up being an athlete, but his name was D. Morgan.
Yeah, there you go, Morgan. That's who it was.
I think he ended up being like a safety, I want to say, in college.
Yeah. And again, that was from Salty was asking what interview show that was. It's called the Outta Pocket podcast with Robert Griffin III. Outta Pocket. OUTTA.
1 hour. It's great. You get Marcus Freeman, Jeremiyah Love, Riley Leonard. Good questions, hard questions, funny questions. It's all good stuff.
Final thought from that pod. Fill in the blank. They asked Leonard what his breakthrough moment is in college, and he said it hasn't happened yet. Leonard's breakthrough moment is blank.
This playoff run that he's about to go on. I think that's got to be his breakthrough moment. He's on the national stage. This is what he came to Notre Dame for. And if he really wants to, get his name out there, how do you do that? You make a run in the college football playoff and you win the national championship at Notre Dame. And so, I think Notre Dame is well equipped for a run, and I think his breakout moment is going to be executing at a high level as the quarterback for Notre Dame and going on this run.
Preston, I think TB stands for Tiger Bait, says, this is a great show. Stop putting me in timeout. I don't know if he's really, like saying this is a great show or if he's just sucking up so we won't put him in timeout. You were getting a little trollish there for a while, Preston.
Maybe he's saying timeout and just watch
if your
the
intentions
show.
Are true, I'll stop putting you in timeout.
Timeout.
It felt
He
like
just
you were
watched the
showing up just
show.
trying to stir things up. So
He watched the show and was like, oh, these guys are actually talking about some good stuff.
All right. So stop putting you in timeout as long as things don't get crazy in the chat. Okay. We'll make a deal here, Preston. We'll go for that. Yeah. To me, it felt like Leonard's breakthrough moment was at Duke. I guess that was last year, like the Clemson game, when the big run, like the touchdown run felt like a signature moment. I think it was a 44-yard touchdown run against Clemson. He leads Duke to an upset over Clemson. They're a top 10 team and all that different stuff. Like that felt very signature. Obviously his season ended up, being, killed by injury. So maybe he doesn't really consider that one, but it's like that felt like a breakout to me. But at the same time, I agree with what you're saying. Like this sets itself up now for Riley Leonard here at the end of his career for this, to be like a big breakthrough type opportunity that's coming up for him here as he caps his career at Notre Dame. So I agree with what you're saying. Okay. So Todd McShay, David Pollack, Steve Mensch, they were talking about Notre Dame on McShay's podcast this week. Here's an interesting question that they posed.
Would you rather have Will Howard or Riley Leonard as your quarterback right now?
Ooh, good question.
I'm just going to stir the pot a little bit, see what you guys say. I'll tell you right now, I'd rather Leonard. I think he's gotten better. I don't know if I would have said that at the beginning of the year. I think Leonard's got better as a passer.
I'd rather have Leonard's offensive line. That's for dang sure.
Yeah. Okay.
But Ohio State's weapons are freaky. But both big, strong, can run the football,
right,
can be effective, and both aren't. I don't think either one are elite passers.
No.
So
I'm taking Leonard.
But who's the quarterback? Who's the quarterback right now in this playoff that you're going, I'm riding that horse? Or who's the one that you think that can get hot? Because you go down the list and you're like, yeah, it's a good question.
All right. So what do you think?
Never gave an answer there?
I think, did Pollack give an answer? One of them said Riley Leonard for sure.
Yeah, McShay said Riley Leonard, but Pollack never gave one, which was kind of interesting to me. I don't think
Pollack, as we played, some of his cuts yesterday, is really high on Notre Dame though as well, but he didn't want to. I think you're right. I don't think he did. I think he dodged it. So what do you think?
I would go.
Is it too obvious coming from us who are going to pick?
Well, no, I think you can present reasons. I like Todd McShay's answer. I think preseason I would have said Riley Leonard, Will Howard. But I think Riley Leonard has continued to grow as a quarterback throughout this season. I think the biggest knock on him was he can't throw the ball. And, while he's not this, elite Joe Burrow type passer, he could throw the ball when he needs to, essentially. And I think the biggest thing about Riley Leonard is I just think he's a better leader. And when the game is on the line, I trust that he has the guts, and also that he's going to get it done. I think Will Howard if everything's falling down around him, the wide receivers aren't clicking, I think he's more of a product of what's around him with the wide receivers that he does have. And I know you could probably say the same, like Pollock said about Notre Dame and their offensive line. But again, when push comes to shove, and I need someone to have the guts to make a play, when the game
That's
is
it.
on the line, I think it's Riley Leonard. I have more faith in him because I think it just means more to him too, honestly. So it's close, but that's to me what it comes down to. Game on the line. I'm going to trust that Riley Leonard's going to make a damn play.
Yeah, I mean, like we just played the cut about Jeremiyah Love telling Riley Leonard to stay on your feet. It's like the guy doesn't care. He has complete and total disregard for his body. He is going
He'll
to do
put it on the
everything.
line.
Yes, that's right. He's going to do he's going to put it all on the line. He's going to do everything that he can to make a play, to make a winning play. I think that's the biggest thing. And Pollock did say that essentially Will Howard has a lot more talent, in terms of the receiving corps, like all the 5-stars that he's got around.
I mean,
him.
Notre
Riley
Dame has
Leonard.
great running backs, but he still has Henderson and Judkins. Like those, on paper, if you said beginning of the season, who's going to be a better tandem, Price or Love or Henderson or Judkins, 10 out of 10 people would have said Henderson and Judkins.
The most interesting thing about this, I don't even know if these guys, fully know this, is a decision that Notre Dame literally made a year ago when they were deciding who they were going to take from the transfer portal.
I mean,
they could have had Will Howard if they wanted Will Howard. They chose Riley Leonard instead. And so Ohio State got the consolation prize.
They got Notre Dame's, seconds. They're leftovers.
Yeah. And Salty makes a great point. Riley Leonard did call me dude when I asked him a question after a game. I can't remember what game that was. It's like, dude.
Next to hit you with the bro.
There's that. But yeah, like, should we play that cut one more time? Because someone was saying Pollock did pick Leonard. Let's go ahead and listen to it one more time here, okay? Because there's 3 guys on here. The photo that I have, it is Mensch, it is McShay, and it is Pollock. So I think Mensch is the one who asked the question. So here we go.
Would you rather have Will Howard or Riley Leonard as your quarterback right now?
Ooh, good question.
I'm just going to stir the pot a little bit, see what you guys say. I'll tell you right now, I'd rather Leonard. I think he's gotten better. I don't know if I would have said that at the beginning of the year. I think Leonard's got better as a passer.
I'd rather have Leonard's offensive line. That's for dang sure.
Yeah. Okay.
But Ohio State's weapons are freaky. But both big, strong, can run the football, can be effective, and both aren't. I don't think either one are elite passers.
No.
So
I'm taking Leonard.
But who's the quarterback? Who's the quarterback right now in this playoff that you're going, I'm riding that horse? Or who's the one that you think that can get hot? Because you go down the list and you're like,
yeah, it's a good question.
Yeah, see, I don't think Pollock answered it. Because that was Mensch that said, I'm taking Leonard. That was the third guy who said that.
Pollock's voice is very distinguishable, and I know he didn't give an answer.
Yeah. Yeah. But he's saying, who's the quarterback that you're going to ride in this group? Like Klubnik? Ewers?
He's not 100% proven to me.
Iamaleava?
It's got to be Gabriel.
Yeah. I mean, he's a Heisman finalist, right?
To me,
but honestly, if Gabriel is number 1, there's probably, like a pretty good distance between number 2, but like I'd have a hard time not putting Riley Leonard probably number 2 behind Dylan of the 12 teams that are 12 quarterbacks who are in the playoffs. I don't know about you. I think Ohio's looking at Ohio State specifically, I think Ohio State would still be where they are if Kyle McCord had stayed. I don't think Notre Dame would be where they are without Riley Leonard here.
Oh, I 100% agree with that.
And that includes if Will Howard was here instead. Are you still there?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. I can't see you. That's why your screen went black.
Am I back?
You are back.
Okay.
You are back to black. Well, we talked about the Belichick stuff earlier. This was Outland just threw this in here. So he says, so what's the deal? We winning this game or is there doubt? Based on like what I have, been told by other fans this week, I think there needs to be doubt because we're not supposed to, jump wholeheartedly on the Notre Dame train because apparently that will make the team overconfident. So we're not supposed to do that. So what do you think, Jess?
Oh, Notre Dame's winning this game. They just need to execute like they've been doing in the last few games. I said earlier in the show, IU, very well coached team. They're going to execute their plays. And if Notre Dame doesn't do what they're supposed to, assignment sound, they will, do their thing, put up points, and potentially win the game. It could be, it is a more talented, well coached NIU team. And we saw what happened against NIU. Notre Dame doesn't execute how they're supposed to, they can get into trouble. But if Notre Dame, they have better athletes, they can play better in space, they have better lateral quickness, they have a more physical, better run game. Like, they have the recipe to be not only the winner of this game, but make a deep playoff run. But you got to do it step at a time, right? So, again, they do what they're supposed to. They're supposed to. They win this game.
I agree. Again, Indiana is where they are because they are an extremely well-coached, disciplined football team. They turn other teams over. They don't make a lot of mistakes. But I think that at the end of the day, Notre Dame is the better, also well-coached football team. And I think you said it earlier. Notre Dame only loses this game if they beat themselves in this game.
Yeah.
That's how I look
Fumbles, interceptions, muff kicks, muff punts. That's the stuff that beats you in these type of games. You can't give IU extra possessions, and you just can't beat yourself. So just play good football. Play what you've been doing and getting better at the last 2.5, 3 months. That's really all it is. And I think if you're Marcus Freeman, the biggest thing, in my opinion, that you need to do is continue to create an environment filled with hunger, with violence, with our opponent is faceless and nameless. We're Notre Dame, and we're going to give you 4 quarters of FU football, and we're going to beat you in, right? Like, that's what they've got to do. And that's on Marcus Freeman to continue to make them hungry, to make them want to exert their will even more in this game.
Yes, and that's a good note to end on. Great stuff tonight in the mailbag, great stuff in the whiteboard, and some fun I think that we had with rapid fire as well with some of those comments. Again, if you didn't hear that, RG3 podcast, Outta Pocket, with Marcus Freeman, Riley Leonard, and Jeremiyah Love, all on there. Good stuff. I would recommend checking it out. All right, we're going to wrap it up with that. Hit the like button before you leave. Thank you very much, Salty. Appreciate you and appreciate everybody being here tonight. We started an hour later than usual, but we're we run close to 8 o'clock. I'll be doing a little bit of basketball tomorrow night. Big one coming up. Notre Dame UConn at Purcell Pavilion. I actually, when I was at the gym this afternoon, I'll give one final thought on this. Let me see. Look up on StubHub real quick, Jess, if you can see what the price of Notre Dame UConn tickets are going for tomorrow. These 2 guys were in the locker room talking when I was getting ready to leave the gym. They were like, big game coming up tomorrow night. And the guy was like, yeah, I was trying to get tickets. They're going for $1,000. He said $1,000 for Notre Dame UConn women's basketball tomorrow night. And so he's like, I couldn't go. Can't afford $1,000 for that. But
they must have been talking about the football game, because I'm seeing tickets for $30 and $50.
He was talking about they specifically were talking about basketball, because the guy was like, yeah, big game coming up tomorrow. And he's like, huh? And he goes, yeah, that Notre Dame UConn game. And the guy said $1,000 courtside. I'm not talking about up arena. He said $1,000
courtside. Okay.
Yeah. He specifically said courtside. So I don't know.
It's a big one.
It is. Should be fun. Got some fun coming up tomorrow night. We had fun last week when Notre Dame beat Texas. Preston's back. Preston, have a good night. And hit the like button before you leave. That includes you, Preston TB. And we'll talk to you later on IB Nation Sports Talk.